This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Jeff Burton, Donny Fandango, and former Blues defenseman Jamie Rivers. Powered by Together Credit Union, empowering you to achieve your financial goals.
It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast. Donny Fandango and Jamie Rivers. Our buddy Jeff Burton still kicking cancer's ass right now.
Yeah, he's taking a well-deserved break here. He's got a lot on his plate. He's got a lot of fighting with cancer to do, and like you said, he's kicking cancer's ass, and he will.
Absolutely so. No doubt about that. So, Jamie, the hockey season is now officially over.
Yes, it is.
Bum, 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 bum.
Ooh.
And I don't know why. And I said this to you in the hall the other day. I hate Colorado more now than I ever have, and I don't know why I am so bitter about them winning the Stanley Cup, but I am, man. I don't like that Kroenke won. I don't like that Kadri won. I don't like that Tampa didn't win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I am just very set off about this, but I want to get your take on this series in general. Even with everything that I'm saying, I think it's pretty obvious that Colorado was the best team in the league this year.
Yeah, they were. I'm with you, though. Like, usually when the teams win the cup, I follow along, see what they're doing with the cup afterwards, especially with social media. Now you kind of see the partying and the whatever. I haven't followed a thing. I'm like, I don't care.
Nope.
I don't care. And I don't know, maybe it goes back to my days as a Red Wing when we had the heated rivalry with the Avalanche, which, by the way, if you haven't seen Unrivaled yet, on ESPN.
I have not seen it yet.
You have to.
It looks amazing.
It's incredible.
Well, let's backtrack. Talk about this a little. Talk about this a little bit. We'll come back and talk about the playoffs.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Unrivaled is it's a documentary or a 30 for 30 and E60. You know those great little things they put together, and it's based off the rivalry between the Red Wings and the Avalanche in the mid '90s, and it's incredible. You know, Chris Draper. It all started with Claude Lemieux, Pepe Lemieux, as he used to call him. He hits Chris Draper from behind, head first into the dasher board, and basically breaks his face. The Red Wings go on to lose the series. Claude Lemieux doesn't even get suspended or whatever. Or he does get suspended, but...
Slap on the wrist.
Slap on the wrist. I mean, today he'd be thrown in jail.
Right.
And so the next year, when everything lined up for their first face-off or whatever, boom, Darren McCarty goes after Claude Lemieux. Then the goalies end up fighting. Mike Vernon fights Patrick Waugh. And then, you know, not even longer after that, I think the next year, they get at it again. And it's another massive brawl, and the goalies get at it again. Patrick Waugh and Chris Osgood this time. And
oh, man.
It was, I mean, then that was just before I got there.
Mm-hmm. And
then when I got there, it was heated too.
Yeah.
Like every time we played, it was a damn war out there. And so the Unrivaled is a documentary, and they bring in together like everybody. Heck, Claude Lemieux sits on stage right next to Darren McCarty, who basically tried to ram Claude Lemieux's face through the boards as payback. He beat him up, and he had him on the ice. He picked him up, started to smash his head off the boards to try and pay him back for what he did to Chris Draper. It's an amazing little documentary. You have to take the time to watch it.
Well, and what's crazy to me, man, is even in just seeing the preview, even just the short, minute-long preview, it is so apparent how different the game is now as opposed to then. Yeah. And it doesn't even feel like, for me, that it was all that long ago. But, man, it is much different. There was one hit I saw where it was almost like and I cannot remember who did it to who, but it was like there was two players going into the boards, and this one guy like sort of slingshotted the other guy face first into the glass, and it was an incredible hit, but like now, like you said, man, they'd be in jail.
Donny, it was the Wild West for a while. I am not kidding you. Like, playing defense in the NHL is difficult. It was easier to play it back then. Only because you could get a stick on a guy, you could slash a guy as hard as you wanted, pretty much. You could grab him around the head if you had to.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side of that is that they could run your head through the boards, too, on a forecheck and come after you. So it was like I said, it was the Wild West. You never knew what to expect on any given day. And I still call it this to this day, is taking inventory. Every time I got on the ice, I'd take inventory for 2 reasons. One, am I out here against a guy like Jágr or Lemieux or Gretzky, got Pavel Bure? I got to be aware of where the best players in the world are. 2, where are all the knuckle draggers? Because usually those were the guys I played against, and you didn't want to not know where somebody was, like a Ty Domi or a Rick Tocchet or an Eric Lindros. Or if you didn't know they were on the ice and you put yourself in a compromised position, you could get hurt in a big way. So I always, every time I went on the ice, I'd take inventory really quick and see, okay, who am I out here against? Now I know in which way I need to play for this shift.
Yeah.
At least this shift.
It's amazing to me how quickly that your mind and body is able to get that information and then act on said information.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's your temperament changes, too. Like, I remember, specifically playing against Pavel Bure and the Vancouver Canucks and those guys. Getting on the ice and like, okay, there he is. And I got to be like speed and skill right now. I need to move my feet. I need to make sure I got a good gap on this guy. Don't give him too much room out here. When I get close, get a good stick on him. Because you could do that, right? So I'd get a stick on him and make sure that he couldn't do anything. But then if the next shift I get out there, like Gino Ojic was on the ice, well, the game changed. Now get the puck on your stick, get it off your stick, and get your stick up. Because someone's coming for you,
right? And
they're going to play beaver out there. You know what beaver is, Donny?
I don't.
I know you know what beaver is.
Well, yes, I know.
But playing beaver.
Yes.
Okay.
I need the clarification here. I think the people do too.
Yeah. And I'm going to do that right now. We used to have these things called wooden hockey sticks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, before the composite one-piece fancy sticks they use now. Mm-hmm. And Basil McRae taught me this at one of my very first training camps. He goes, you need to have these guys play beaver if they want to get that hit on you. And what it was you make your pass and you'd hold your stick up in front of your face because they were coming to get you, and they would run their own face into your stick or get them in the teeth. And so we call that playing beaver because they'd have to gnaw through wood to get to you.
And it's perfect that Basil McRae was the one to tell you that information as well.
Razzle, dazzle, Basil.
So, all right. So back to the finals there with Colorado and Tampa as we get off on the tangents, which we seem to do. You had a very banged up Tampa team.
Yeah, man. Did you see that list of injuries, dude?
That's crazy. But then also, too, okay, so I want to ask this just logistically as a fan. So, a lot of these injuries, man, that there are pain meds being taken, shots given to. At what point, Jamie, does it become an issue that is happening?
Oh, boy.
And I know that this is a big can of worms, and you're talking about hockey players.
We're talking about a 30-minute podcast. This is like a podcast mini-series to go over this. I mean, look, I'll say this. It's whatever the individual is willing to do. Mm-hmm. And the hard part about that is most hockey players are willing to do whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. And so, I went through it. I've had battles with it. It started me down a path of not great things because you learn that to live like you can't go without it. Because it makes you feel great. Yeah. It does. It makes you feel great, like you're invincible. They start out with, some kind of a medication, prescribed medication. And it's not like you just go walking in and get, the doctor prescribes it. It is what it is. And then, it'll escalate to whether it's a freezing of the area or a Toradol. Toradol is a crazy drug. It's an injection, and they'll inject it, and it finds its way to the pain. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it does it. But, man, you feel like a superhero. I remember playing on a broken foot and a torn ligament in my knee and still feeling like $1 million. And then, the off season comes and you get your surgery, but then they follow that up with more pain meds. Yeah. But then you don't feel great because your body is you put your body through so much punishment while you're in this state of like not feeling it. Well, your body doesn't forget what you did to it. And then neither do you when all the meds wear off. Mm-hmm. And so then when you just get out of bed in the morning in the middle of June or July, your body feels like hell.
I cannot imagine.
It's hell. You try to walk to the bathroom and both your knees, your back, your shoulder, your neck, your ribs are all jacked up. So what do? You go take a couple pain pills. Yeah. And then you feel good. And then you're at it because you got to get up. You got to work out. You got to work out. You probably have to go skate. You got to keep this engine going, man. And so that's how you end up going down a dark path.
Yeah.
Is because then you're craving the feeling of no pain. And then at one point when you take too much of it, it gets you, high a little bit, you're feeling a little too good.
Yeah.
But it feels really good. And then you're going after that more and more and more. And that's how some guys get themselves in a lot of trouble. And we've seen that over, the last 10, 15 years where guys have had real problems trying to wean themselves away from all this stuff. But this is a bit of a dark. I know we've gone down a dark path here.
Yeah, but I think it's something to talk about though too. But I'm sure now that the training staffs and the doctors are more tuned in to try to keep that sort of thing from happening.
Well, the trainers and the doctors are never wanting this to happen.
Well,
ever.
Right.
No, but
they're not trying to overly medicate at all.
People think that guys, nowadays it's gotten a lot better because. Every medication has they're all interlocked. Like if you punch it in at Walgreens and CVS and all these other places know that you have a prescription out there for not a banned substance, but a government sanctioned,
like an opioid or whatever the heck it is.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, because if guys used to shop doctors too, have like 5 different doctors, and then in a week go see all of them and get a prescription for all of them, and nobody could keep track. And now that's how guys got in trouble. Is because then they'd have, 5 different full scripts of it with no reason to stop taking it.
Yeah.
Now it's all connected. It's regulated. The trainers do a really good job of, hey, if you need this, we're going to get the doctor here. We're going to prescribe you this. But then, that's it. Then you get it for today and not for a week or whatever it is, depending on the injury. And the doctors with the injections are very careful. The athlete is treated so much better today than what it was, but you got to get through the game. And so when you go back to our original topic, you're the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is a matter of probably where, yes, they had freezing going on, they had medicines going on, and you had the athlete who was just willing to push through any pain that was going on to try and win the Stanley Cup.
I think one of the things that was so remarkable to me about watching that last game, about watching that last Stanley Cup final game, was thinking about all of the hockey that the Lightning have played the last few years.
4 years, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there could not be anybody that has played as much as they have. And at some point or the other, even when you're loaded like Tampa Bay, that's got to catch up to you at some point.
Did.
The way the game is so physical, absolutely.
It caught up to them. You look at guys like Vasilevsky and Hedman, Stamkos, Kucherov, we found out he was injured. Stamkos, no disclosed injury, but, he was beaten up. And Vasilevsky as the goalie, he's the guy every year. And so he was tired. He had Victor Hedman plays, 25 to 30 minutes a game. These guys were exhausted. It's a grind. That's why, three-peating and then to get 4 in a row like the Islanders and Montreal Canadiens have and the Oilers in the 80s where they got, 4 in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's a grind, man. So it was kind of miraculous to see what the Lightning did just by getting to the finals and fighting as hard as they did to push that to where they got it.
Do you see a sea change happening at all in the East? Do you think that the Lightning will be back and will be one of those threatening again next year? I mean, there's a lot of coaching changes in the East. I mean, you've got Florida, all of that. So how do you project the Lightning going forward?
Well, I think you'll see a good team again. Their core guys are locked up. Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, Kucherov, Hedman, Vasilevsky. Those guys are locked up, man. They did a real good job of getting those guys on good contracts. And now they just have to maneuver the pieces around them. The Chicago Blackhawks at first did an okay job of keeping their core guys and then just intermingling guys in and out of there. And when they won their 3 cups in, 6 or 7 years, they managed to do it pretty good. Now, the albatross contracts to Duncan Keith, to Brent Seabrook and those guys, those ones hurt them to where they had to tear it down basically to where it's at now. But at the Tampa Bay Lightning, Steve Yzerman was a catalyst of this. He got a lot of guys under good contracts, and Julian Breezeball has done a very good job since then. So they've got their hands full, but they have the core group of guys there. They have a great coach. They have a great general manager. They have an incredible owner, and they have the best goalie in the world. That always helps.
So speaking of best goalie in the world and how Colorado doesn't have one, but still won the Stanley Cup, like that team to me coming into next year, I know Kadri could potentially go, but I mean, that team looks like they're going to be ready to make a run again.
Yeah, they got a good core there. They don't have a goalie.
They got to figure that out, right? And with what money are they going to be able to figure that out with?
Well, that's the problem with it is, where do you go from there? Do you just re-sign Kemper? But, he was making, $4 million this year. You're probably going to say, hey, look, we can't pay you more than that, or we might have to take a haircut here, but we'll give you an extra year on the back end. But then are you really wanting to be married to the one goalie that nobody thought was really all that good anyways?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. So be interesting to see where they go as far as goaltending. Kadri won't be back there. They won't be able to afford Kadri along with the the main dogs that they have there. And you got to remember Nathan McKinnon, I think he's a couple of years away from being available to negotiate a new contract. You're going to want to hang on to that guy. So you're going to want to make sure you're not locked in long term with some contracts that you're going to regret. So a lot of work for Joe Sakic over there, the GM of the Avalanche. But they have a good core. Landeskog's locked up. McKinnon for the foreseeable future is locked up. Kale Mccarr is locked up. Like, they got 3 of the best players available that are under contract long-term with that team. There will be some turnover, so it'll be interesting to see ultimately what happens.
I think one of the things that you started talking to Jeff and I about well over a year ago was Kale Mccarr. Like, I just remember you saying a long time ago, like, this guy is a absolute stud, deal breaker. What is it about this young man that makes him legitimately, I mean, he's probably the best defenseman in the league right now, right?
Oh, yeah, he absolutely is.
So what is it about him? And on top of it, he's a friggin' kid. He's not supposed to be this good, this young. There's supposed to be this learning curve.
Yeah.
How did he avoid that, dude?
Well, he still has a learning curve on the defensive side of things. He's very good defensively. I think you watch him in that Edmonton series in particular. He was out there against McDavid an awful lot and did a real good job against Connor McDavid. Heck, in our series, the Blues against him, he did a real good job in that series too. Now, he gets himself in trouble at times with some turnovers because he tries to make chicken salad out of chicken poop sometimes, and never want to do that, Donny.
Can't do that.
Don't do it because it just ends up getting real messy. Tastes bad too. So he tries to make plays sometimes that aren't there, and he turns a puck over, but that's a guy you're like, okay, that's fine. We'll deal with that.
Right.
But the biggest thing that he's got going for him is his skating ability. His edge work and the way he can turn left, right. He opens up his hips and he walks the line. He makes you think he's going to shoot, and then he keeps going, and he's going to shoot, and then he keeps going. He's a bit of a nightmare to defend, and he's evasive out there. You don't really ever get a great opportunity to run him through the boards because he sees you coming, and then he's still able to avoid the hit as it gets closer. So, yeah, he's the real deal. Heck, Gabriel Landeskog, after they won the Cup, they said, what can teams, the copycat league, what did teams, what are they going to be looking to do to try and do what you guys did? He goes, well, they better find themselves a Kale Mccarr first.
Good luck.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah. So, but Colorado is going to be the kind of the standard for all of us going into the season next year.
Yeah, I think so.
What do the Blues need to do to catch up?
Well, they're not far off, Donny.
See, I don't think so either, man. And I think that's another reason why I'm so pissy about the whole thing.
Well, yeah, it's hard because when you look at Colorado running the table after they played the Blues, I do believe the Blues would have gotten to the Stanley Cup final, and I think it would have been one heck of a final against the Lightning. Probably 7 games, and who knows? Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, what could have been? But that's good. It's good for next year. So Jordan Bennington looks like he recaptured what he is supposed to be as far as an elite goaltender.
Which is a huge freaking relief.
It's a massive relief. The one concern that I have is what if he has speed bumps like he did last year? Then what? Where are you turning to? Because Ville Husso, 99% will not be back.
Mm-hmm. He's going to get paid.
He's going to get paid, and I don't blame the young man at all. But then, so what do the Blues do? What's your option? Everybody's, Charlie Lindgren. I get it, but people forget that why was Charlie Lindgren in the American Hockey League? There's a reason. Why did nobody else have Charlie Lindgren on their roster or in the NHL? There's a reason. He's a great goalie in the American Hockey League. In the NHL, he's been very average for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand that our listeners here in St. Louis are
We
going
love Chucky Sideburns.
He's 5-0. He's undefeated.
Right.
Yeah, I know. That's 5 games. Give him 15, 20, 25, 30 games, and we'll see. He might be the only viable option financially for the team, especially up against a salary cap, and he might be a great option. Who knows? It's a concern of mine is, do you have enough as far as a 1A, 1B tandem, or is it just a 1A and backup goalie?
Because, I heard Jeremy Rutherford talking about this with Carricker and Smallman in the last week or so, but the idea is you want to keep Joel Hofer in Springfield for another year to get more time down there, correct?
Yeah, you want to get him a lot of reps because making the NHL as a goaltender is a really tough thing to do. You want to make sure you guys ready.
Absolutely so. So then exactly, Mr. Rivers, I feel as though you might be advocating for a potential cheaper backup option outside of the organization. What are you saying there? Because, man, I mean, like you just said, there's not going to be a lot of money to be thrown around to a backup, and you probably don't want to do that, but you got to protect yourself.
Yeah, I think an interesting player for me is Marc-Andre Fleury.
Oh, shut your face.
I swear to God.
Really?
Yeah, he's interesting for me.
I think he's very interesting for a number of reasons, but why is the Blues backup goaltender?
Well, I look at it more as a tandem, almost, again, to where Jordan Bennington would get, 55 starts and Marc-Andre Fleury would get the rest. But what if Bennington struggles? Are you really uncomfortable letting Marc-Andre Fleury play?
Nope.
No, not at all. And he's at the end of his career. He's probably not going to want to break the bank with a contract. I know he really liked his time in Minnesota, and maybe he'll go back there. Maybe that's what they'll do with him is basically mimic what I'm talking about for the Blues. But I bet you could get him for like $1.5 million. And now you've got your surefire backup / 1B goalie. So you got 1A and 1B. Again, you got a veteran guy who we know everybody who's ever played with him loves him. Mm-hmm. He's great in the locker room. He's a great leader. He's got championship pedigree. Is he what he once was? No.
But we don't need that.
You don't need that because you hypothetically or theoretically rather, you have Jordan Bennington. You just need a guy that if the wheels fall off the camper, you got a guy who can put them back on for you for a little while and carry the load. And if it gets to playoff time and there's an injury, something like I hate to say it, but what just happened to Jordan Bennington?
Yeah.
You hand the ball off to Marc-Andre Fleury, the moment's not going to be too big for him.
Absolutely. What is the timing, Jamie, of the David Perron decision? And how's that going? Because I've read recently that the Blues' first offer, from what I understand, was very low, and the Perron camp was like, well, that's a little disappointing that it's so low. Did you see what I just did? Yeah. So what's going on here?
Well, I don't know. I
don't think there's anything nefarious going on. I think it's just the negotiation part of this.
It is. And, again, what you hear sometimes may not always be accurate.
Oh, stop it, Jamie.
I know. Imagine that.
That would be like the internet not true all the time, Jamie. I don't know.
It's like Wikipedia ever getting something wrong, right? So I don't know if the offer was made. I don't know if it was low. Not sure. But based on the information that we've seen or read so far, which we have to go by, the Blues probably thought to themselves, hey, we'll give you a 3-year deal, and that's an extra year than what we were going to do, but you're going to take a bit of a haircut because we're going to try and build a team around you as well. We got to go get players here because we didn't win the Cup last year. We probably could have, but we didn't. Mm-hmm. And so in order to do that, to repeat what we did last year, except hopefully have a healthy goaltender and carry us over the goal line, I need that money. And Dave Brown probably said, yeah, okay, we'll find the money somewhere else.
Right.
Because I was still one of your best players. I was your best player in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I run your power play, which for 2 years in a row has been in the top 3 in the league. And, I'm going to need to probably make at bare minimum what I made this year, which is $4 million. I think a 3-year deal, $12 million gets it done. That's me.
I love this. The way that this all works. I would be so terrible at doing this. Like the game of poker between this would be terrible. I would want to jump on David Perron after the season. Don't go anywhere. We want you to stay, which is obviously not what you can do.
Well, the Blues do want him. They've expressed it publicly, which, let's be honest, Doug Armstrong, Craig Berube, they've never, ever expressed publicly, like, we really want to keep this player. With the Alex Pietrangelo thing, they said, we really like this player. We'd like to keep him a St. Louis Blue. Situation was different, though.
Mm-hmm.
Petro's at 27 at the time, 28, looking to hit the big paycheck. Perron's 34 right now. So
different ends,
completely different scenario.
So I've got a couple of questions to ask about our division and about the conference. But I just before we came in here, I was reading a little blurb, and again, we never know what's right or what's wrong. But I was reading a report that said that the Calgary Flames are getting a little antsy when it comes to the decision making for Johnny Hockey.
Oh yeah,
and I've also read that he potentially might want to go to Philadelphia because I guess he's from there. But then the Tortorella situation might potentially change him wanting to go there. And obviously the reason that I say this is because of the Matthew Tkachuk dominoes that could potentially fall depending on what he does.
So I think Johnny Gaudreau's from Boston area, from what I understand.
Okay.
The north. Maybe he's from Philly. I don't know. I know the Boston. Maybe he went to college at Boston.
Or it was a Flyers fan growing up or something. You know what I mean?
He's a Northeast person either way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how Tortorella would change anything. He just played for Darryl Sutter.
Okay.
Darryl Sutter is very difficult to play for, very difficult individual sometimes to understand. And then other times he's very simple and easy to understand. So if you play the way you're supposed to play and do what you're supposed to do, Darryl Sutter's going to be just fine with you.
Same with Tortorella.
Same with John Tortorella. And Johnny Gaudreau just came off his best season ever. So I can't imagine John Tortorella, wanting to assert himself with one of the best players in the league last year.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that. I think he would welcome that opportunity to coach a guy like that. Problem I have is, why would Gaudreau go to Philly? Why?
Because
that team's going to be terrible.
Right. That's a total rebuild. Right.
It's a total rebuild. You're at the end of your career. You just had a great season with the Calgary Flames. You've had a great taste of what hockey is like in Canada, where people are so passionate, whether you love it or you hate it, the good times and the bad times, all that stuff. Why would you go to Philadelphia, where the fans are relentless? They're passionate. I love Philadelphia fans, but if that team stinks, that's going to be tough to play there.
They booed Santa Claus, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, they've done some
I mean,
they've done some stuff.
I mean, throwing batteries at J.D. Drew, D-size. I remember that. When Michael Irvin got the concussion and was being wheeled off the field at the old Philadelphia Vet, and they cheered.
Yeah.
Santa Claus getting hit in the face with snowballs. Man, that's an aggressive fan base, man.
It's an incredible place to play when things are good.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
You would be a god.
You are a god.
Yeah.
And guys like Rick Tocchet, Craig Berube, they go back to Philly. Heck, Chief has a house in Philly in the offseason. Why? People walk around and throw rose petals in front of his feet. You're Craig Berube. Right. You're Rick Tocchet. You're, whoever they had back there, and Brian Propp. That he lives back in Philly.
Yeah.
They love their players when the team is good. And when they don't play good, they don't love the players.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Johnny Gaudreau is a perfect fit for that rebuild/environment. Don't know why he would ever pick that. It was rumored.
Right.
But back to the original question is, the Flyers or the Flames have to figure out quickly what's going to happen with Gaudreau, because they got to pivot quickly on Matthew Tkachuk. Because if Gaudreau doesn't come back, Tkachuk will not re-sign with the Flames.
And then they've got to trade him or they're going to get nothing for him.
And the value for that player, now is the time. Now is the time to trade Matthew Tkachuk. Leading right up to the draft is to trade him from this minute that we're recording this podcast until the moment they announce the first name on draft day is the time to trade Matthew Tkachuk if you're the Flames. To maximize the value you can get in return.
So is Doug Armstrong outside of the Saddle Dome right now, kind of circling, looking inside,
He's in the shadows, and you can just barely see the whites of his eyes around the tree, staring into your soul.
It just seems like, and you know what, and I know that this is a fan thing, but honestly, I'm sure that I'm over the top on this one, but that's fine because that's what I do. But I feel like Matthew Tkachuk wants it. I feel like the Blues want it. Blues fans, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I would be so excited to have that dude here. I just feel like we all want it to happen, but I know that that's not how this all works.
Well, it can at times, but the problem is the Calgary Flames have to like the deal, going back the other way, and the St. Louis Blues would have to be the only team that wants Matthew Tkachuk, which is false.
Yeah, no way.
It's completely false. Every team in the league wants him. If you said there's no salary cap at all, every team in the league would put together an offer for Matthew Tkachuk, and that's tough. Salary cap whittles it down a little bit because certain teams are just like, there's no way we can shed the money. Mm-hmm. So move on. Keep the feet moving here, you know? The Blues are a team that are in a tough spot. They will have to shed salary, significant salary, in order to fit a Matthew Tkachuk. Then it comes down to, what are you willing to give up? You know, how do you get to that dollar value? And then can you re-sign this player? Because you don't trade for them, and you don't liquidate assets, and you don't get rid of prospects.
If you're not keeping them.
If you don't know for sure that the moment you acquire him, you've got an extension that's signed at the same time. Whew. So that also makes it difficult for other teams too. Is not only are they trading for Matthew Tkachuk, so they throw their name in the hat for Matthew Tkachuk. Let's go. We got a package for you. But can they re-sign him? Can they extend him? Would he sign a contract extension with that team? There's probably only 3 or 4 teams that he probably would do that with.
Right.
So it's tough. It's interesting. We'll find out. There's going to be a lot of action coming up, man.
So there's 2 head coaching vacancies left.
Yes.
Detroit and Winnipeg.
Jim Montgomery. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be a crime if he doesn't get one of those. Mm-hmm. And Boston's still available.
Okay. So there's those 3.
Those 3.
And Rick Tocchet, man, why am I rooting for this dude so bad to get a job when I know he's going to be a good head coach somewhere that could give my Blues a lot of trouble? But I just really like that dude.
Yeah, I think his name is in there too. The coaching world in the NHL is starting to change a little bit. You're still getting some recycles, like Pete DeBoer getting another chance again, and like
Captain Sourpuss.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pete DeBoer's a good coach. I think that's why he keeps getting good jobs. John Tortorella, a bit of a head scratcher for me there, especially in a rebuild. He's not the most patient human being. If I was the Flyers, I would have went Jim Montgomery there or Rick Tocchet. But Rick Tocchet, from what I understand, doesn't necessarily want to be in a rebuild situation. I'm just hearing that. I don't know. I didn't ask Rick myself, but yeah, there's opportunities out there. I think Jim Montgomery is as good as gone, in my opinion. I think that he's proven in the last couple of years that he's back to being the coach that he was in Dallas, and that he's gotten over his obstacles and proven it to not just the players, the staff, but the community as well here in St. Louis, that he's an outstanding human being that had some problems, and he got over that, and he's dealing with it, and he's working every day to keep those problems behind him. So he'll get an opportunity. I believe it'll be a crime if he doesn't.
Man, and I'm still also hoping that, by some strange chance of imagination, with maybe the exception of Montgomery, that we can return. I'd love to see Otter behind the bench for another year.
Otter's going to get some consideration too.
I'm sure.
For sure. Now, interesting piece of the puzzle is if I was the Blues and I lost either one of those guys, I'd be wanting to give a little phone call to Andrew Burnett from the Florida Panthers.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's without a job now because they went and hired Paul Maurice. How weird is that situation, by the way? I'm Andrew Burnett, and I just finished in the top 3 for Coach of the Year. My team won the President's Trophy, and I don't have a job.
That is so crazy. It just does not make sense to me.
Doesn't make any sense at all to me. But that's why I say that if the Blues lose Steve Ott or Jim Montgomery, I don't think Mike Van Ryan, not that he won't leave or wouldn't have an opportunity, but he's a D coach. Andrew Burnett, not that he couldn't do it, but it's not exactly ideal for him. But if the Blues lose Ott or Montgomery, I would be picking up the phone calling Andrew Burnett. He's a former player, a good dude, too, awesome dude. He would fit in perfect to what the coaching staff, that vibe that this coaching staff has already.
Man, it's going to be so long before we have Blues hockey. we're going to have to figure out some way to make this summer last. You know what I mean?
Well, there's going to be a lot of action coming up here.
I sure hope so, but I don't know. Ever since the loss, man, I've told you, the way that it happened, all of the things, the Bennington injury, all the ways that it went down, I'm just bitter and I want more. Just because I believe in this team, I just think we're good.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what Doug Armstrong does as well.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
The magician. That is Jamie Rivers, Donny Fandango, Last Minute Blues Podcast. We love our brother Jeff Burton. Hopefully he'll join us next time. It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast. And as always, the next time they play, let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast. Hear more at 1057thepoint.com. Powered by Together Credit Union. Empowering you to achieve your financial goals.